the Gilded Age of politics. It is an era renowned in American history with something that we may think endemic to our political system. It may also be that it's an aberration, maybe a time period in which we engage in behavior that we don't normally engage in. Are we a people of corruption? Is our political system always subject to venal interests out to get what they want? And certainly if we look at the Gilded Age of politics in the late 1800s, you have a time period in which we are filled with corruption and filled with evil, venal, self-interested politicians. Now, many in American society currently hold that to be what we are about. But it may not be that we engage in that behavior at all times. Certainly in the late 1800s we did. Now, one way to understand it is we do achieve good things through politics for the people of America, right? That our government and our governmental system and the political system operates to make things better for the American people. Well, there are a variety of issues sitting there, plaguing the American people in the late 1800s. And you as a historian have to understand whether our system of government and politics at that time met the needs of the American people. That's the issue that you as a historian have to be able to answer. And if you see the issues are there, and they're important, and you have to be able to understand factually what took place and make some judgment about that. Before we get there, a couple of things along the way. Number one is definition of the Gilded Age. What does gilded mean? And I think if you look on the cover of a very expensive book, the binding is gilded. It is plated with gold. That gilded binding shows that it's covered in gold. There's an expression called gilding the lily, where you have a beautiful, beautiful lily, simple and great in and of itself, that is gorgeous. And if you gild the lily, it is adding too much. It is putting on a covering on that which is already beautiful. That is too much. You're complimenting not only how great a teacher I am, but you're also telling me just how beautifully I dress on a daily basis. That would be gilding the lily. My teaching is brilliant and wonderful. And so the Gilded Age came to be a term coined by Mark Twain, famous in your Dr. Zonia's classes, about the era of politics at the time. And it actually pertains brilliantly to not only the politics, but the society and the economics of America at the time. And the Gilded Age refers to that outside covering that looks perfect, while on the inside, the heart of the matter is corrupt, and as I said before, venal and awful. So if you look at American society, that which we study today in class, you see that bustling, hustling, amazing, American, vibrant city, while inside that city, people living in destitute, poverty, and awfulness and sinfulness. You look at American industry, boom, incredible boom, men, machine, and money, we make, we do, incredible. But at the heart of that, incredible desperation for the workers, incredible destruction of the environment, awfulness at its core. And similarly in politics, you cannot get a time period in which there's more hoopla, more interest, more passion, more fervor, and yet what lies at the heart of American politics in this time period? Corruption, evil, awful, self-interested corruption. So we have the Gilded Age of politics as a definition. You have your issue, you have your definition. Now let's look first at why there is that kind of disillusionment. I think if you look at the Civil War and Lincoln's death, you see a very clear indication that we have lost our great leader. We have no more hope. We cannot place hope in our political system after our great leader is assassinated, and certainly with Andrew Johnson becoming President of the United States in that time period. I think you also have to look at the failed high hopes of Reconstruction. Our political system breaks down. We almost remove a president after impeaching him. That breakdown of the American political system has us place less faith in it. And I think we all are interested as a people in, let's make money, let's go do money, let's not have politics as our focus. And I think that also causes difficulty and problem. The Gilded Age is awful at the lowest level all the way to the national level. And at the lowest level, the big city political machine that we learned about today in class is important. Tammany Hall, Boss Tweed, the corruption, graft, and evil of the big cities where they are controlled and run by an institution that does not have merit, does not have goodness, does not have anything happening there, is another reason why we're disillusioned. At that local level, we look and say, it's pretty bad. If you look at the state level is controlled in exactly the same way by a machine. Big city political machine, state political machine. And you can name them all across the country. But who's in control of how legislation gets done? It is a corporation or it is a political organization associated with a party that provides for how politics get done. And it's corrupt, it's bad. And so you have these, and at the national level, we'll see in a second, just why we have so much corruption and so much evil. What we have as a result is a political system that may not function that well. As a final part of the introduction, let's look at the Gilded Age politics themselves. What can we look at and characterize as the way politics was done in the time period? I think if you look, is there an issue, number one, under Gilded Age politics, is there an issue that divides the political parties? Is there something in which people say, I believe this, I believe that? No. High political consensus. We all agree almost on everything in America at that time period. There's no real difference between the political parties. Well, wait a second. Second point, Mr. Burroughs, is there's intense partisan, P-A-R-T-I-S-A-N, partisan fervor. How can there be political consensus at the same time you're talking about intense partisan fervor, hatred of the opposing party? We can't stand the Democrats. The Democrats can't stand the Republicans. How can you have both of those going on at the same time? Well, let's look at, for a second, at the high partisan fervor. We have some of the highly contested political presidential races of all time. These elections in the late 1800s saw incredibly close elections where it was incredibly close by a few votes. In fact, we had two elections in which the president did not win the popular vote, but won by winning the Electoral College. It was swing votes at this time that won things. We see that, we see this fervor, but it would be, point number three, you avoid the issues on the campaign trail that might lose you votes. And you can see any number of elections where somebody putting forward a stance really on an issue cost the votes that cost the presidential election. So you have everybody believing roughly the same thing, highly contested elections, with point number three being avoid the issue. And what do you do to win if you avoid the issue? You take the mud and you sling it at the opposing side. And so you have highly contested races that don't say anything about the elections. All you do is attack. All you do is attack the other person. All you go on is something other than real issues. And then finally, what does this result in? Point number four, weak presidential leadership. Who is it who's president of the United States in the late 1800s? Name one after Lincoln. There aren't any. They are the bearded, the bland, and the boring, leaving nothing but blots and blanks on the presidential record. The bearded, the bland, and the boring. And in fact, if you wanted to be president of the United States, you had to be a Union general, and you had to come from the state of Ohio, because that was a high electoral vote state that was highly contested when Ohio became president. Thus, a transfiguration of the traditional phrase, some men are born to greatness, others achieve greatness, and others are born in Ohio. So remember those four things when you look at the Gilded Age of politics, and you'll see that politics back then may not be that much different from the way politics are conducted in America right now. We'll be back with the actual issues of the Gilded Age.